Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Today we are talking about what to do when you get stuck or frustrated. So, your plan isn't always going to go according to how you thought it would. And what you do in these moments is more important than sticking to the plan or making sure that your plan is executed, right? Because sometimes having that mindset is actually going to make sure that you don't do your plan. So today we're talking about what to do when you get stuck or frustrated, and knowing whether you react or you respond. And I have a video that already talks about the differences between those two, so you can go check that out later if you're not sure if you react or respond. For the sake of brevity in this one, I'm not going to go over that. But when we get stuck, having a plan for what to do when we're stuck, instead of trying to just implement whatever it is that we want to do. So for example, let's say we had a meeting and we all agreed that we were going to meet at 9 a.m. Tuesday morning somewhere to discuss a very important topic. Let's say for whatever reason, this meeting cannot take place or you can't make the meeting. The way you respond in this moment is going to determine whether or not the plan gets delayed, gets implemented at all, or doesn't come to fruition. So in other words, sometimes people can get so fixated on I need this meeting instead of like what the purpose of the meeting was. If the purpose of the meeting was to simply make an introduction or whatever, come up with another way that you can introduce people, right? So being able to think critically and think in the moment is more important than just having your eyes set on the meeting. There's a purpose to why you had that meeting, and figuring out a way to implement that purpose is way more important than having the meeting, right? So we've talked throughout this month, we've talked a little bit about predetermined choices, and that's going to definitely come into play when you get stuck or when you get frustrated. And especially if you already are walking in your purpose, but you're trying to expand or you're trying to grow it, you're trying to multiply it. A lot of the techniques that you use to build your business, to build your purpose, to build your family, whatever it is that you're called to do, won't work when you're in expansion mode. It worked to set the foundation, but you have to go back to what the principles were. So in other words, I'll just use construction for an example. If I'm building a house and I lay the foundation, and now I want to, and the house is done, and I want to make an expansion to my house, depending on how I'm doing the addition is going to determine my actions, right? So I can't just say, okay, I've already built a house, so I know how to add on an addition. Because what if you're adding on a second story? Well, there's not going to be a foundation, right? There's going to be some steps that you don't do that you did the first time around. And so my point being, okay, maybe I don't do the exact steps. It's the principles of why I did those steps or how I did those steps that's more important. So, and so I say this to say your predetermined choices are going to affect the way that you stay in one area and expand, stay in one area and sink, stay in one area and build, whatever it is. The feeling of being stuck and frustrated is meant to teach you something about yourself and help you refine your process. But a lot of people don't view it that way. They just want to get out of the situation, and so they miss an important lesson. And lessons repeat themselves until they are learned. That's just how it's going to go, because if you don't, like I said, maybe I don't need to build a foundation, lay a foundation if I'm building onto my house, if I'm building a second story to my house, for example. But the principle behind why I set a foundation, I'm definitely going to need. I'm always going to need that. So, and so that's why it's important to learn the lesson, because the lesson isn't, okay, make a foundation anytime I'm doing a building project. The lesson is, I know that there's steps. It's precept upon precept that I'm building this thing, and I need to know what I'm doing and keep my eye on the reason behind what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? So today I want to give you some ideas for how to get unstuck. Your homework for today is going to be go watch the react or respond video. Which one do you do? Do you normally react or do you normally respond? Because knowing the difference is going to impact, again, your purpose, but also everything else that you do. If that's just part of your nature is to react, things are going to be more difficult for you than they need to be, right? There's going to be a lot more one step forward, two step back kind of scenarios in your life, and it's just unnecessary. So learning how to respond instead of react is going to definitely help you. So that's your homework, is to figure out whether you react or respond and make a predetermined choice about what you're going to do when you get stuck or frustrated. I want to give you a couple of ideas that you can think about when you are making your predetermined choices for how to get unstuck, or or when you're getting frustrated. So I talk a lot about my channel, on this channel, about knowing thyself. I think I mentioned it even in yesterday's video. You need to do that. One of the things that I encourage you to do is know your baseline. Like, where do you sit most of the day on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, what is your number? And why is that your number? Are you happy at that number? I have a whole video that talks to you about how to find that number. I'll put it in the description of this video as soon as I'm done. So you want to know your baseline. You need to know yourself first. So if you notice, okay, I'm normally an 8, which is true for me. I'm pretty energetic. I'm pretty positive all of the time. If I notice that I'm at a 4, I want to know why I'm at a 4. This is a significant drop off of my baseline. There's something going on, and it's an opportunity for me to learn a lesson about myself, for me to understand, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why is this situation, or, did something happen or whatever, that I'm thinking about it in this manner, instead of looking at a reason why this should be, a peak instead of a valley. Okay, so you need to know your baseline. You need to know what your number is now. Like, how far off of your baseline are you? And then you want to actually think about, okay, if this thing is caused because I had a plan and I'm not able to implement the plan, or I had a goal and I wasn't able to meet the goal today. Think about that, but also think about why you wanted that goal, right? Why you wanted that thing met today, why that was on the schedule for today, and see what you can do. Develop steps that you can take right now in that situation where you're feeling stuck and frustrated, because a lot of people, by the way, stuck and frustrated makes an atmosphere when you believe, I'm just stuck, I'm just frustrated, there's nothing I can do. When you believe you don't control the atmosphere, you're going to continue to produce more and more of that atmosphere that gives you the feedback that tells you you're stuck, you can't do anything. See, look at you, you're still stuck. It's another day, another week, another month, another year, you're still stuck, you can't do anything, and it's a lie. So again, you need to know why you wanted to have that thing happen, or why you didn't want that thing to happen, right? Depending on the situation. And then think about steps that you can take in order to make the actual end goal of, right? Because I assume that would be one of many, many steps that you would need to take in order to have the outcome that you wanted. So start thinking of ways that you can take other steps to still reach that end goal, not just this number one step right here, right? Like, I needed to be at that meeting, or, I needed to make that introduction, or whatever the situation might be. So think about steps that you can take to actually have your end goal met. Second, you need to have your vision before you. You need to remember your why, which we talked about. We talked about this before throughout this month, right? Your why, your passion for whatever you're doing needs to burn brighter, needs to burn hotter than the amount of feeling that you have, amount of energy you have in your frustrated moment, in your feeling stuck moment. It needs to be bigger than that. And so you need to have your vision before you, which helps keep that passion, that fire for your end goal alive. You have to understand that this has to be built into the plan. Things are not going to go according to your first plan. So having a plan for your plan needs to be part of the thing, because nobody has ever been like, oh yeah, I started at A and I wanted to go to B and it was done, no problem. Every single person who's built something that lasts, that's unique, that's useful, that serves other people, that has a benefit, has had detours along the way. And that's always for their benefit, but also for the people that they're serving. It's also for their customers, their clients, their patients, whatever it is that their family members, whoever it is that they're primarily serving in their purpose. Okay? So have a vision before you. Number 3, Take care of your triggers. Okay, I have a video coming out in a few weeks that talks about how to identify triggers, what they are, why they're actually an invitation for freedom. But you need to know what your triggers are. You need to know this is non-negotiable, because if you're trying to build something and you're building and nothing is happening, like everything's going great, and all of a sudden something that is unresolved in your past comes up and you don't know how to deal with the trigger, you don't know how to overcome it. I'm going to do a video on self-sabotaging in 2 days. On Wednesday, that's the video topic, is on self-sabotage. So I'm going to get into this more. Um, but listen to me when I tell you that this is how it goes with people with triggers. They get triggered, and so they want to go the opposite direction of whatever it is that triggered them. So they just want to get out of that situation. Instead of addressing it, instead of facing it head on, they just want to get out of it. So they go the opposite direction, except that that's unsustainable. And so where does it lead them? All the way back. It makes a pattern. Guys, this makes a circle. You end up right back in the same situation. This is why some people can never break generational curses, because they don't understand. They think in their mind, it tells them, oh, I'm doing something. I'm getting out of this cycle. I'm getting out of here. And it's leading them right back to the same place that they started, which is where they were triggered the first time. And now they're going to get triggered again, and it's going to make that cycle grow stronger and stronger and stronger. It's a pattern. It's a pattern, and I have a video that talks about patterns and why this is so important to know and all of that type of stuff too. Taking care of your triggers is going to prevent you from getting stuck in this never-ending loop of just doing the same things over and over and over again. You think you're moving, you think you're going somewhere, you think that you're running far away from your triggers, but it's bringing you right back to the same thing that put you on this cycle in the first place. So knowing how to identify your triggers, having a plan for how you're going to handle them is super important, and understanding the circumstances that affect your triggers. So in other words, the environment around why you're being triggered. You need to know so that I can pre-plan, right? Again, predetermined choices, super, super important. A lot of people will stop wasting time at cleaning up a situation, cleaning up a circumstance, an event, or whatever, if they can make better predetermined choices, because they know, okay, I'm going to go into a situation that's triggering for me. For example, let's say you're in court with a narcissist and it's time to have, maybe you've been in court for a while. You went to mediation when you first started court, but now you have to have another mediation session. Maybe you made some terrible mistakes in your first mediation session, and you're reliving all of these things you would have done, you could have done, you should have done, the list goes on, and you're living in the past of, okay, it's going to be like this again. I'm going to feel like this. I'm not going to know what to do. All of this evidence is piling up against me, and you get yourself into this mode of being highly irritable and very easily triggered. So if you can use predetermined choices to address the circumstances, to address the atmosphere that you're stepping into, you're not going to have to do a lot of the cleanup at the end of this event, right? So if you can practice with somebody, going into the mediation session, going through the processes of forgiveness, whether that's for yourself, the narcissist, any third parties involved, whatever. This type of stuff is long-term. In other words, it might not be able to be done overnight or whatever. But this is really something that you need to get used to using, so that anytime somebody does something to you, or things just don't go the way that you had planned in a relationship of any type, you're able to forgive and move on without having that person or that circumstance or that organization or whatever affecting you. You can't have your decisions being based off of your feelings in the moment because you're upset that they didn't do something that they should have done or whatever. Okay, so having predetermined choices is going to really help you not only deal with your triggers, deal with the atmosphere that could potentially trigger you, but also having a plan for how to move forward. So if I know I'm going to get stuck, if I know at some point this plan is just not going to go according to my plan, And that's okay. I leave space for that to happen. I've built into my plan setbacks. I've built into my plan delays or detours. Then when they come up, not only am I not frustrated, and I don't even let that come into my mind, like now I'm stuck, I'm not progressing, I'm failing, I'm whatever. I don't even let that come into my mind. I immediately go into my get unstuck plan, right? Which tells me, okay, you know what? I need to remember what my purpose is. I need to remember my why. I need to remember what my ultimate goal of wanting to have this thing happen or not wanting to have this thing happen was, so that I can start partnering with having that end goal still accomplished, still met, and I can start taking steps to have that thing fixed right now. One final thing that I want to mention on this video, this is longer than my other videos, so thank you for sticking with me if you're still here, is to put it in perspective. Lots of times this was my thing that I needed to do today. This was the thing that I had to have done, and if I don't have this thing done, I can't move on to the next step, but there's no possible way that I could be moving forward or whatever. But when you have it in perspective, like, hey, is this thing actually derailing your entire day, or is it derailing the next hour? Is your next hour now not going to go according to plan? So I'm a life coach, and sometimes I'll have clients who don't show up, even though it's part of our coaching agreement. They sign a contract when they coach with me that says, if you miss your time, I'm still going to charge you. So it's not to their benefit to miss a session because you're not getting your money back. But to avoid frustration for me, the cost involved is my time. So now I've already set aside this hour. I've rearranged my schedule to make sure that I can show up on time for this client and be present with this client, and then they don't show up. In order for me to not be frustrated about that, I already have a list of things that I can work on during that hour. And I'll usually write down how many minutes I think it'll take me. Okay, here's a task that'll only take me 30 minutes. That's what I'm going to work on until my next client. Why? Because it's not fair if I'm frustrated that my next client after this one, who had nothing to do with that client not showing up, it gets my energy of being frustrated. I can't focus on them. I can't really listen and engage with their story. And their story is very important too. So if I already have a plan for, okay, some people aren't going to show up and I can't make people show up. But what I can do is control how I use my time if somebody doesn't show up. And this is true for in-person meetings too. I make sure that I just always have a book with me. I make sure that I just always have something that is possible for me to be doing so that I feel as though that time was not wasted. It's like, no, I still got something done. I still made progress on something else. The same is true for you, and no matter what your purpose is, no matter what your goal is in doing these videos and in walking through these lessons with me this month. So put it in perspective. Did you have a bad day? Did you have a bad 5 minutes? Is this thing actually derailing your entire week, or is it derailing the next 1 hour? Is there something else that you could readily be doing, even if it's just walking, and getting steps for your body, which we talked about, your overall health and things like that at the beginning of this month. So think about, use the things that you have been given as opportunities, not as obstacles. And that's really going to help you remember how to get unstuck. And it also builds resiliency. I'll talk about that in a separate video, but knowing that resiliency doesn't just happen. This is something that you have to actually work on, that you have to be intentional with. And if you have a plan, if you have make a predetermined choice that no matter what the situation presents to me, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to learn something from it, and I'm going to better myself for it, so that when I do complete my purpose, because I know that I'm going to complete my purpose and I'm not letting any other option come into my mind, I'm going to be better able to steward it, to maintain it, to keep it, to grow it. And so when I have that perspective of like, okay, I might not see a short-term yield on my investment right now, but in the long run, this thing is going to have, is going to bless me, with multiple dividends. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, you guys, that's the end of today's video. I know this was longer than I really like to do these videos, but thank you for tuning in. And oh yeah, one more announcement. The purpose bundle is still going to be for pre-sale, but the sessions with me are all taken. So the first 50 people were able to get a 30-minute session with me along with their bundle, and those were all taken. So now just know if you pre-order the bundle, you can still get it, and you still get all of the ebooks and all of the exercises and all of that, but these one-on-one sessions are already taken. So all right, you guys, have a happy Monday, happy President's Day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.